Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks. All right, hey everybody. Welcome to Wheel Talk. We are interviewing and kind of cross-chatting with friends of ours from the Mud Peddlers. So, welcome to Lindsey and Donte from the Mud Peddlers.
What's good?
Becca's here as well. So this will be kind of an interesting foursome interview with all of us. So, do you want to just start off with just introducing yourselves and kind of what you do in clay and maybe who you are?
Oh, Lindsey, tell them how fantastic you are.
Okay, well, no.
If I must.
So, my name's Lindsey M. Dillon, and I'm a ceramic artist, primarily making nerdy mugs and creature sculptures. I started working in clay in 2007. Didn't really do it a whole lot in college. Came back to it around 2013, and I've been doing it full-time since January of 2020, but basically full-time since, 2018, so...
Cool.
Yeah, so that's
because
me.
you quit your job, became, full-time.
Yeah.
And now you're just, potter.
Pretty much. I had a...
That's the dream.
Yeah, so Donte, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, man, I don't Yeah, alright. So, long time ago, the government made me angry and I decided to start a YouTube channel. Essentially. And it's become well known enough for me to be kind of a supplemental thing for other people's teaching or journey throughout art and ceramic artwork. And at the moment, I think we're at 50K subscribers on YouTube. We started the Mud Peddlers Podcast, right? It's really like I bugged Lindsey to start it.
Pretty much.
It was over the course of 3 weeks. I was like, Lindsey, we should start a podcast. It's COVID time. And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, you gotta. And she's like, I don't know. And then, every week, the you gotta got more intense. Where I was like, you gotta. And then, and then finally, she was like, I can't take it anymore. I'm just gonna start. And now we're kind of here with you guys. Other than that, I'm more of a, I guess you would say, a traditional wheel-thrown ceramic artist. I make a lot of functional art. Whenever I don't make functional art, it's usually decorative vases, things of that nature. You know what I mean? I haven't competed in quite some time simply because of COVID, where you gotta compete. You know what I mean? Unless you want to send your pieces overseas, which you don't.
Yeah.
No thanks.
And other than that, I'm just kind of riding this train and trying to be people's academic supplements to their ceramic art journey, essentially. I have videos on what your first wheel, what your first kiln, centering. I have glaze recipes out there. I use a lot of glazy. I'm more of a resource than anything at this point.
Do you share what you do full time, Donte? I don't know if you share that or if people know what you do full time.
The people who really follow me know, but full time, my 9 to 5, is that I'm technically a cook / chef. I always like to be realistic in saying that I'm not a chef. You know what I mean? If I were to compare myself to other real chefs in the world, I would say think of a car mechanic and then think of Jiffy Lube. You know what I mean? The guy at Jiffy Lube technically is a car mechanic, but he's not replacing your whole engine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm that level of chef, but my 9 to 5, I technically am a professional chef, technically.
But you basically put in full-time ceramics in addition to your 9 to 5.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely made a deal with an entity, and he was like, at 50 you're gonna die, and I was like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time, and he was like, cool, now I don't have to sleep anymore.
Perfect.
For our Mud Peddlers listeners who may not know you guys, care to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Becca, do you want to start?
Oh, sure. My name's Becca Otis, and right now I do full-time production pottery for Graves Co. Pottery and in Indianapolis, but previously I owned a paint your own pottery / teaching / production studio in Monroe, Washington, and that's been going on for, let's see, I owned the store for 3 years, and I was doing full-time since 2014, I think. So I've been doing full-time for probably 7 years, pottery, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Tight.
Yeah. And myself, I've been selling pottery since 2016 on the side. I'm a full-time website developer. I went to college and majored in IT locally here in Northern Kentucky, and then minored in ceramics because I always kind of had that itch for clay, and I knew I didn't want to do this. I was not confident in the stability of going out of college with that degree and saying I'm going to do it as an artist.
We feel it.
So I went with the IT route, it pays well, and then I do the ceramics on the side. So the goal is to do it full time someday. I'm kind of working my way toward that, but just kind of doing the side thing and sharing through social media a lot. Try to share as much business acumen and stuff that I have interest in, because that's kind of lacking in a lot of what you learn. You learn a lot of technique, and you learn a lot about form and all that stuff. That's really important, and then the the art, the selling of it, and the marketing and the business part is kind of secondary. And that's what I care about a lot, and I care about very analytical and systems and stuff. So that's kind of what I try to share, and what I think Becca and I kind of strive to share a lot more about, because that's what we really love. So
yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head kind of with that economic side of pottery and selling your own work. John the Potter had talked about it when we talked to him, when he was I see a lot of people making fantastic work, but they don't talk too much about how to sell it and get it out there and how to really advertise themselves. And I'm glad that we have another person who's thinking that way as well, because I don't at all. I just make,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and whoever buys, I guess.
Yeah, I was, again, when I was researching, preparing for this, I was listening to a few of your guys' episodes, and particularly the last Q&A that you guys did on social media. I was just wrapped listening, just oh my gosh, it's so nice to hear other ceramic artists really go into detail about that kind of stuff, because again, I think that's when I do have the chance to get on my soapbox, that's one of my soapboxes, is that frustration of the stereotype of the starving artist. It doesn't have to be true, but part of the reason that I feel it is a stereotype is because the business knowledge that is integral to not being a starving artist is not included in the arts education. And so I think it's really cool that you guys are contributing to
and there's no shortage of knowledge to know in the technical side too. There's so much you need to know in how to do the process of clay, because there's so many steps along the way, and there's just so much knowledge out there, and myths out there, and then there's you learn from doing, and then there's asking people that have done it and found success with certain parts of the process. So of course, and then marketing and selling it's its own other thing that you
especially
need to know.
with the algorithm at the moment is just crazy. It's crazy, the algorithm, and unless you play it, it's difficult to start advertising yourself.
Yeah, and that was the third episode we did of social media. I feel we were tired of it by that point, but I mean, there's no shortage of social media questions that people ask, and our experiences of running our social media accounts is only one facet of what So I mean, there's so much to know, and just so many questions out there, and ways to
Becca,
go about
it seems you've really
yourself.
been taking off on TikTok from what I saw. You have something 100,000 followers or something like that. Is that right?
Oh, you be TikToking?
Yeah, no, I have about 200,000 followers on TikTok, and it was a complete fluke. Total fluke. I shared a plate hack that you can use with a PVC pipe, and it got 8 to 9 million views, and then that just kind of took me off, and then ridiculous. And I'm like an ultra introvert, which nobody really knows, but I am. And so, and then I was also going through like the business closing, my business closing, and then moving to Indianapolis, and so I kind of like dropped it. So now I still have 200,000 followers, but I have like every video is like like 2,000 views. So I don't worry about it too much. Like I'm on the completely opposite spectrum. Like I could give like two shits about social media. So I've been very fortunate in the sense that my customers, I don't know, I'm very transparent. So my customer base is like, it's small but mighty, and so that's been really helpful for me. And so having like so many people on TikTok it's kind of like, they're amazing though. Like the thing about TikTok, which I was so just blown away by, is that they're so willing to support, and they're willing to give you all of their money, you know. And I'm not a seller, so saying like, hey, here's my PayPal, like send me money. Yeah. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. But I am part of the creator fund.
The people on TikTok are eager to send you money?
Yes, like the followers. They're like, how can we support you? Yeah, they're like, how can we support you? We love you, blah, blah, you know. And it's like, it's great, and like the support is awesome, but it's also like this weird fine line of like, I don't really want to ask you for things. Here's my product. You know, you're not like you are a creator. Like I'm teaching, you know, I do the same stuff, like how to center, what kilns to buy, how to change a thermocouple, like all those things. But yeah, it's just so weird. But TikTok has a creator fund, and I haven't made very much, but I paid for my cell phone with it, so I made like $800.
Oh, that's nice.
$900.
So yeah, and you're saying it was live videos and stuff, right? They watch your live,
for,
and they can
doing
throw you a
nothing.
few cents and stuff.
Yeah, for doing nothing, it's great. Like, yeah, so you can do live videos, and they can like gift you things. They can gift you money essentially, and
kind of like
you have to
Twitch?
have 1,000 followers.
Yeah. Twitch has it,
so.
YouTube has it, and TikTok has it.
Oh, okay.
They're just called super subscribers on YouTube, and they're called Twitch subs on Twitch. I don't know what they call them on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they're just called regular TikTok followers on TikTok. And, but like, yeah.
They're just people on TikTok, Donte. Don't be silly. They're not super.
They're just people. Yeah, but, yeah, and when I was doing lives, like, before I left and before, because it really did just completely drop off to a dead end once I left Washington, because I just stopped posting stuff. When I was doing lives before that, it was, you know, like 100, 150, 200 people on the live at a time, and we'd just be throwing pots and talking, and I play my Spotify playlist, and
oh, yeah. That's the chill right there.
That's the chill.
Sweet.
There used to be an app called Periscope. Well, there probably still is an app called Periscope. But you just basically do the same thing. But, like, TikTok seems to be, like, a better version of that. Where, like, it's much more interactive.
Okay.
And that's kind of how we started kind of getting into the back and forth with Becca and I. We would do IG Lives on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then that's where we would kind of talk all these kind of topics that morphed into Wheel Talk.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
That's so cool.
And then we were like, hey, we need to capture this longer than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
and that's how
this started.
Born?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's how our friendship started, for sure. Like, I would be throwing in my basement.
A lot of podcasts are like that. Where they're like, we're just chilling, but what we're talking about is kind of lit. We'll make a podcast?
Yeah.
That's how we, Well, with me bothering you more.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I was like, I knew myself well enough that I was going to need to edit it. Because I don't know, I feel like I have to more carefully craft every, like, way that I present myself to the public to some degree. So, like, actually doing the podcast has helped me kind of loosen up about some of that. But I did also know that I was going to be needing to edit it, so.
By nature, you're a crafter, so it makes sense why you would want to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you,
I was surprised that
Okay.
Lindsey did most of the, like, editing because Donte does YouTube. So I was like, oh, how do you all kind of determine who does what? Is it based on, like, who has the time commitments or just the level of detail? Or
Oh no, we get in the studio, we record the podcast, and then we like fight every time. But Lindsey is like really strong with that right hook.
I just beat him down every single time and just
she's
assert
like,
dominance.
We're gonna do it my way. And then like I never get to. I've never won.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
That's how it be sometimes.
That seems so unfortunate for you.
No, it's okay. I'm like bigger and heavier than her, so no one feels bad for me.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh, no. Donte is kind enough to let us use his audio recording equipment, and then I do the editing. But I mean, we only release every 2 weeks, and the episodes are only like 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
So for the most part, the editing, it only takes like maybe 3 hours max. So it's not too bad.
That sounds daunting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they don't edit. They're just like lame.
Oh my god. Well, 3 hours is like, okay, so I think
That's a long one,
The
though.
longest
3
I've
hours
ever
over
spent
2 weeks,
editing-
though.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, no, go ahead.
3 hours over 2 weeks. I mean, we release every single week, so if Becca had to do 3 hours of editing,
Yeah, but how long does it take me to edit an episode, Ryan?
like 15 minutes probably.
No, like 10.
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, because I imagine like you set it up in the program and then you let it run, and then you watch out for like that's what I do on my YouTube channel. I'm like, what can I not say? And then I cut that out, and then the rest of it just renders pretty much. You know.
Yeah. We pretty much tell it all. The only thing that I edit ever is when we lose internet connection, essentially. And I don't listen to the podcast. I listen to the beginning.
No,
She's being truthful there.
I'm telling the truth. So I listen to the beginning for the first like 10 minutes just to make sure that we're like, or 5 minutes or whatever, to make sure that we are in sync. And then I listen to the very end, and that's it. And then I save it.
That
and then we're
sounds
good.
so nice, not gonna lie.
I
That sounds really
obsess.
nice.
I watch my own video like 12 times before I'm like, what part can I cut out to make it shorter? What could I have been more XYZ about? Is it over 10 minutes? If it's over 20 minutes, it's too long. Under 10 minutes, it's not long enough, YouTube says.
Oh god.
I think that if I was doing a YouTube video, I would watch it more. Like, I would edit it more. Like, when I'm doing my TikTok edits, like, I'm definitely watching it consistently.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But for the podcast, I don't know, maybe I just have a good memory. And I just
Honestly, I forget what we talk about. I mean, it's one of those, you talk about it, you end the recording, and you're like, I kind of remember what I talked about. I was like, I said something or whatever, but like I might listen to it later. But I usually listen to about 75% of the episode before I put the description in on Friday before we release it on
That's
Saturday.
fair.
So
I'd say 75.
Yeah.
Like when Lindsey releases them, I listen back to them, and like 75% is what I listen to before I'm like, cool, I didn't say anything too offensive.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys always
but
kind of
I
know
was
from
gonna-
the beginning that you wanted the... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I saw this lady, and she records audio for a living, and she was saying that a trick that I thought was really cool is to get one... Stop it. Sorry, my cat's here.
Is that Lloyd?
Yeah,
Wait.
kitty.
Yeah, Lloyd. He likes alcohol, and I'm drinking alcohol, so...
Damn it, Donte, we're doing it wrong. Wait, did you guys start the Wheel Talk Podcast drinking game? I heard you guys talk about that, and I'm like, please make this happen.
We have to now.
I want to.
Now our subs are gonna be like, we gotta do a drunk Mud Peddlers.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Karen.
Yeah, we're unofficially sponsored by Bev. Anyway, she has a dog clicker, and whenever she messes up in the podcast, she clicks it, and then it creates a high frequency wave, and it shows her where she messed up, so that way she doesn't have to listen to the whole episode. She just goes straight to that like ping in the episode, and that way she doesn't have to worry like about listening to everything.
I do that too, but I clap.
Oh, okay.
Remember when we were
mess up?
recording and I clapped? I watched for
Yeah.
the spike, and then I'm like, that's the start, that's the end. Yeah, I didn't know that
Yeah.
was other people did that. That makes sense.
Yeah, she's
really
like
good
she
idea.
like records audiobooks, I think, and that's how she does it.
I see. Yeah, because you can see I don't edit
Yeah.
that. I don't know why I'm trying to fucking. Yeah, Lindsey, when you edit like audio,
What?
so, like you can see the audio.
You can.
Oh my god. Donte,
No, I'm
effing crayon eater.
I'm really glad that the audio editing is like I use Audacity for the editing, so it's pretty simple, like and uncomplicated. And I find it kind of fun. Like there's a satisfaction in being able to like take an episode that was like 45 minutes and cut it down to like 30 so that it like, I don't know, like so that it flows better, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know.
Yeah,
At least,
you're creating.
at least for me. Yeah,
It makes
it's fun.
yeah.
It's my little like systems brain being like, yes, I will bring order to chaos.
It's almost like you enjoy creating things.
Yeah, so when you all are going through that, you know you're going to edit it down. How much do you prepare beforehand to know what you're going to talk about, or have a list of questions, or do you decide that together, or do you each have your own kind of thing based on the topic?
Kind of both, honestly. So just I can't totally speak for Lindsey, but my own mental processes usually go like Lindsey and I a week or like a couple days beforehand will like say, hey, let's talk about this subject. People either asked for it or we really just want to speak on that subject. And then I will kind of marinate on it over time. And I'll think, okay, here are the 3 things I want to address. Here's the intricacy about how I want to address them and how in-depth I want to go. As for Lindsey, seems to be very like, here's a list of 10 things we could hit. If we hit 7 of those things, even on a surface level, then we will have covered a broad enough scope to consider it like long enough to be a podcast. You know, or at least we hit enough points for it to be like a full meal.
Yeah, I tend to try and have, like, if I know, because again, like Dante's saying, we'll usually, like, figure out a couple days beforehand what we're going to talk about, and then I will usually spend some time trying to write down, like a list of things within that one topic. I don't always actually get to the point of writing it down, because sometimes Dante and I will just sit down and be like, oh, like, we should talk about this, and then, you know, if it feels like there's enough of a conversation there, we'll start going with it. But I think it kind of varies episode to episode, like how much preparation we do.
Yeah, I think a good contrast of that is like the depression episode. We recorded like 3 or 4 different times because the past recordings didn't feel as though they hit home enough. And then I think one time I came in like a little actually depressed, and I was like, we gotta talk about it now.
Which episode was that, if people want to hear that episode?
I think it was actually labeled depression or anxiety.
Yeah, let me double check what it is. I believe it is episode. Let me see. All right.
Mental health.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah.
Yes,
I think it is mental. Yeah.
The mental health episode.
Episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that episode took us a while to record because after a while we were like, that didn't feel right. That didn't feel right. That didn't feel right. And then when it felt right, we really.
So you like listened back to it and decided like, hey, little iffy. I think we only did like 2 episodes like that, Becca. Right? We did the wholesale one that we like held back for like weeks and months.
The wholesale one, I changed my mind like a week after we recorded it, and I was like, no. Like I've changed my mind on how I view things, and so I didn't want to release it. And then this like 2 weeks ago, we said a few things that were inaccurate for one.
Yeah.
And then we said a few and then it would just kind of like rambled on and on. And we were like,
it was
and we
a
just
longer
didn't even
episode than it needed to be, and like we didn't have the right answers for. So maybe that'll be a hidden episode later. I don't know if we'll ever release it, but
Josh said it was fine, but you know, like we let Josh.
If we get desperate, maybe we'll release it.
We kind of do that too, where we make like, I wouldn't say extra, but like we have like something on our mind, and we're like, we have to record that, but we don't know where it goes, so we just have a little stock of like extra content waiting. We
for
have some
when
of them.
I eventually get it together to start a Patreon.
Right.
So.
Dude, me too, right? Like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we cuss.
Yeah.
I cuss way less than I used to.
I saw y'all had an explicit thing on there. I don't know if you started with the explicit on the episodes, but I saw them on there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, I was just terrified that like some like high school teacher was gonna be teaching a bunch of freshmen and then hear me talk about like some of the shit that I talk about sometimes.
Because we go up and down real
Yeah.
quick. We go from like, this is how to sell your art, you fucks!
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
real... Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know like when to mark something as explicit, so I err on the safe side, but it's like I don't know.
We try and keep it not so... Because like, the conversations we honestly have are not full of cuss words, but we're a little bit more eased with our language. But we don't want to put that into the world all the time. We don't want to be known as the podcast who like, oh, they do pottery and they cuss a lot. Like, that's not...
I think that we've had a review like that.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, we had the first like 50 episodes that we didn't mark as explicit because I was like,
That was
there
Ryan's
are,
fault,
There are
not
podcasts
mine.
that I'll listen to that don't have explicit, and they're way worse than we are. And I'm like, how
Really?
do I get away with that? I think
Yeah.
it's just like for the listeners'
And then we got the
so they
one
know.
review. And then we got the one review that was like, this podcast is great, but make sure you don't listen to it while you're washing dishes in the kitchen with your 4-year-old next to you. And
that's so specific.
well, I mean, it was effective. It made Ryan want to have explicit content on our podcast, so it worked out.
I think for me with my content, it was just people like teachers started coming up to me and going, I like your videos a lot. They're long, they're in depth, and I want to show them to my class. But you said some stuff, so I started putting my dirtier stuff at like the end and the beginning. So that
that's
for your YouTube videos.
Yeah, for my YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So that way at the end of the YouTube video, or at least when it ends after the credits, the dirty stuff is there. So you can end it as a teacher. Or you can start it with the credits, because before the credits is the dirtier stuff. So that way they have the option of like showing them the meat of the content without
That's smart.
putting their job
That's
in
good,
danger.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
went to
that's a good
school
idea.
today, and Mrs. Crabtree put on a YouTube video, and there was this potter who was coning up and down, and he was... Okay, Timmy. Okay. No, I gotta tell the West. All right. I'm firing Mrs. Crabtree.
Oh god.
She's done in this town.
Oh man.
But yeah, I'm curious. What are you guys' thoughts on like Patreon? Because Becca, you were kind of like, oh, eventually like it sounded like you maybe like wanted one but hadn't started one. Like what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like my thought on Patreon is like, I think it's a great idea, and I feel like I've given, I'll just say it. I feel like I've given a lot to the ceramics community within like a lot, like especially with videos and tips and tricks, and we do this podcast and it's like all these things, and I'm like, man, it'd be great to get paid for this shit, and like,
Right.
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm positive, 150% positive that if I got a Patreon, I wouldn't do anything with it. So like, I think in theory it's a great idea, and if you are an organized human being like yourself, then it would work fine. I, however, am not. Like, you guys were talking about how you like prepare for your podcast. Like Ryan prepares. There's a lot of notes. There's like a lot of notes that Ryan prepares, and then he texts me on the day of, and he's like, hey, remember, we're recording tonight. And then 30 minutes before, he's like, did you remember that we're recording? And then...
Or we will decide 30 minutes before what we're going to talk about, too.
Or 5 minutes. Or like one time we decided within the podcast that what we were doing.
Mid-podcast, yep.
Yeah, so
The
like...
production episode.
So,
oh
like,
yeah, I
just
just listened to that one. I was like, I think that's the
Yeah, like I think that in theory, I think it's a great idea, and I love the idea of it, and I think it's cool. Like especially that, who's that one potter that like makes those massive big ass things that are like that he cuts into and then he like shapes and stuff. He has a Patreon, and he does a great job at advertising. Like, hey, is it?
Is that Danny Messenger? Yeah, I have no, like, I'm not into the Patreon group. Like, I'm not a patron of anyone, so I don't really know what it looks like, but I assume it's kind of like a whole pay-to-play kind of thing. And I don't know. For me, it just feels like another thing to do, like, time-wise. And it feels like gatekeeping too much to me. But, I mean, I see kind of the same way as Becca. Like, I don't want to gatekeep information, but I do feel like we give a lot of information. I think ideally for us, like, if we were to get paid for something, we would like to have a sponsor for the podcast or something like that that would pay us a little bit for the information that we're giving. Or, I mean, I get free stuff sometimes too. Like Speedball gives me free shit. Diamond Cores give me free shit. Like I still get some stuff. I don't get money per se, but I get like products sometimes.
And that's
like,
why I don't recommend Diamond Cores, because they haven't given me free shit yet. Come on, Diamond Core. What the fuck?
You hear this, Diamond Core? Get it together.
Also, P.S. You can buy their shit on Amazon. You can buy shit on Amazon that's half the price. That's all I'm saying.
You can.
But then you're supporting Amazon. No. No, I hear you.
I mean, I think are there Patreon communities that like they get like one-on-one kind of thing, and you get like a private interaction, and that's kind of how they do the Patreon side of it?
So my Patreon isn't too big, but I constantly don't advertise my Patreon personally. The way I treat my Patreon isn't kind of like in the context of gatekeeping, like you had said. It's more that I give out all the information I want to give out, or that I can give out, in fact. And anyone who seems to like my personality or wants extra pictures of my artwork, even though I'm constantly posting anyway on public platforms, or they want extra videos that usually are not educational. They just, like, one of them was I went to the museum with a group of friends for like an hour, and it was an hour-long video of me walking a museum. People are really paying for Patreon as far as that extra content and entertainment. As far as the education side, that's just free form for everybody. I really don't want to keep that from the art community at large. Yeah. And the way I describe Patreon is like, it's OnlyFans for crafters. It's like...
Yeah, that makes sense.
You already know what I have. You just want to see more of it. I'm not keeping it from you. You just want to see more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it also depends on the... I think it also depends on like who is running the Patreon, because it is so like, you know, you craft the levels, you know, each, you know, so much to yourself. So I think it's like, I think some people will, once they start a Patreon, at least from what I've heard, some people tend to they don't prioritize like sharing on Instagram for free as much. So sometimes like they will like kind of gatekeep some information more, which I mean, I think there's room for that depending on how you do it. But that's part of one of the things I've been concerned about as well, is like, how do I balance and add this extra content without taking away from my other social media, or like not providing information that I want to give to everybody about like my process and
Patreon
stuff.
is dessert. I'm still giving you a full meal. You're getting fed.
Yeah.
But if you want dessert, I'll make it. Right. I ain't doing it for free.
Yeah.
And
I think it'd be interesting if it was like...
Sorry, go ahead.
Like an hour in the studio with me. Like you just get to see an hour of my time during the week or something while I'm making in the studio what I'm already doing, and they just get a glimpse into that and see what you're actually doing in that time. Like maybe that would be something Becca and I like, that it would maybe like be more in our kind of group.
Well, what I personally do is I set up the camera and I have like a one-on-one talk about what's going on in my life, new glaze recipes that I'm testing, new clay that I'm messing with, different ramps and hold times of my kiln. I talk about what they would like to see. Like, I have like 5 videos planned, and my Patreon kind of exclusively decided those videos based on their needs and wants. And then I took a look at my larger community on YouTube and Instagram, and I said, okay, they want that too. So, and you can also give them like private casts. I think my first level, like, you get a shout out, but I always tell people, you don't have to support me. I will still give you this information. Just people who want me to be a little more successful. Like my camera, this microphone, probably the computer we're talking on right now, quality by Patreon. My kiln was just saved up for like 5 months of Patreon money.
Man.
Like, there are people who want to see me go up in quality and want to support me as an artist.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, they're people who like you. and appreciate what you do for the community. There's people who will take the food and leave.
It's like a GoFundMe, but it's like a Kickstarter, but a revolving Kickstarter almost.
Way less money. Way less. I think my bottom tier is like $1.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a route to go.
Yeah, but many hands make easy work, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's true. See, I can't even keep TikTok up, so...
It sounds like another one, like
right in that
Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
It is like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, OnlyFans. Like, you know, you're right in that it is more work, But realistically speaking, if I had to, like, Patreon takes care of me way more than YouTube does, and YouTube does pay me. So it's...
Oh, nice.
You know.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed that your Patreon was more like money that you're getting in the pocket than YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't pay me very much. No.
Can we ask how much?
YouTube pays me about $500, and that's when my channel is doing very well. I'm getting like 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers every month, and out of those 1,000 to 2,000, I pick up like 50 people a month who are constant. Like, they're like, I've clicked the bell next to subscribe. I'm looking for your videos every single month. I'm coming back. And of those videos, only 3 out of the 4 of them have ad revenue on them, because I feel sometimes like I don't want to put ads on my videos. I feel like it would be a smoother transition, and it interrupts the process. So I take the ads off sometimes. So I'm not like money. I'm more like education first, but if I can get money to up that quality of education, like if you were to fund a school for better books, then I would like that. That'd be tight.
And the Patreon is like double that? Or is it triple that?
It's almost double that. No, it's not triple. No. I don't push my Patreon. I haven't talked about my Patreon for like a month. This is the first time I've done it on a podcast for quite some time. But I'd never end a video with like, Patreon, guys, remember, give me money. Like, I almost never mention it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, Donte.
Not there's anything, I just don't push it. Like,
yeah.
You know, I care far more about the authenticity of my community than I do getting money from my community. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't get money from your community and also be authentic.
Right, no, that's not, yeah, no. I agree with Lindsey. I just don't do it on purpose.
Yeah. My community, you know what's funny is that I had a friend in my store probably like a year ago, and she paid me something for something, I don't know. And then she like hands me $100 essentially, and she goes, "Do you always take money from your friends?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah.
Like all of my, like, you know, it's funny because like when you have a smaller community of people, you become friends with that community, and then they end up paying you money, and it's like, and I had to come to terms with that, like had to like be like, okay, am I okay with taking money from these people that I go to dinner with or you know, hang out with, like have a house key with, you know, like have a house key so that I can watch their house. Like, am I okay with that? And it is interesting that like after a while you kind of are like, well, I'm gonna have to be okay with it. But yeah, your community.
It sounds like she was trying to guilt trip you and to give her some free shit.
Yeah, I thought you were, the way you were saying that, I thought you were
so.
saying like, do you actually like give a discount to people that you know, like giving you free stuff? That's what I thought when you said
pulling
that.
some Karen on you.
No, she got a $100 gift card for finding the golden egg on Easter, so she's already gotten free shit.
Yeah.
She's complaining about free money at that point. It's a gift card. You found it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and subsequently, like, people who are really your friends usually want to support you monetarily anyway, that I often find. Like, people who want to support me in that fashion don't often be like, give me free stuff.
Yeah.
Usually when they're really
My
down
friends
for you,
don't
they're
let
like, I
friends
want to
get
pay for it.
discounts.
I have questions for them.
Oh yeah.
I have one very specific question for both of you.
This is gonna be a curveball. I got a feeling.
No.
I don't even know what this is. I'm a little terrified.
Okay, so you've both changed. Have you guys always lived? You guys haven't always lived in the place that you live right now, right?
We haven't always lived what?
Where you are right now, right?
Not physically in this space, no.
But you've made pottery in different areas of the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Not world, but I mean, yeah.
Okay. Do you find different dry times based on your geographical area?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I'm not crazy.
I've always been in Kentucky, so I feel like mine's pretty standard.
I've been in California, Washington, and Indiana now.
A bunch of
And-
people. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and then I grew up in Colorado. So so California I feel like dried really quick. You guys are in California. But because it's hot, it is kind of humid, but it's not really not as humid. In Washington, and it also depends on where you are in Washington. Like, I was in a building, and then when I lived in my house, I was in my basement. And my basement, I literally had to have a dehumidifier because it was so damp that nothing would dry. It would take
your entire basement was
forever
a
to
damp
dry.
box.
Yeah, my entire basement was a damp box. So I had a dehumidifier that went into the sump pump, and that's how much liquid would come out of it. So, and then being in Indiana, it's interesting because when I got here in January, it was pretty dry. And then now it's pretty humid. So we kind of looked at, me, Ryan, and Rachel, actually, that's Ryan's wife, looked at the humidities of Washington versus Indiana, and they are pretty similar, but they don't act the same at all. Okay. And so, but like right now, when we are doing pots at Gravesco, they're taking like a day to 2 days to dry. At the beginning, when I was here in January, they were taking they would dry in a day. So yeah, definitely like, and then, if I was in Colorado, I guarantee you they'd be dry. It'd be more similar to California, but actually drier. But also, I think that tapping onto that, I feel like that people they underestimate the power of airflow. And so humidity has a lot to do with the drying, temperature, and everything like that, but airflow actually has way more to do that. So like, I had a friend in London who messaged me, and she's like, my pots aren't drying, they're taking 4 days. And I was like, leave the door open, put a fan on it, when you at night. And she was like, the next day she was like, oh my god, they're all dry now. So yeah, so humidity does, and like location does have a lot to do with it, but also airflow has more to do with it.
Lloyd has entered the chat.
Oh yeah.
I can see Lindsey next to me like, and I'm like, we're talking about humidity.
I know. I'm
in
sorry.
Pottery, Lindsey.
It's just I am a big old like cat mom. I got two fur babies. I wanted a boyfriend too, I guess. But I'm sorry, Cody. If you're hearing this, I love you.
He always sits behind my computer and looks over.
That's fantastic. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't.
It's
mean
probably
to detract
warm
from the
back there.
conversation.
Well, the reason that I ask you is because so many people ask me how long does it take my pottery to dry, and I'm always telling them like, it's really based on where you live, how hot it is, how humid it is, and what type of clay you have. Like, you have to do the work to figure that out for yourself. And since I heard that you've moved so many different places, I was like, she can confirm this for me. I'm not crazy. It has way more to do with humidity than it does the heat in your area. It's just that heat and humidity seem to have a correlation to some degree. Like in Japan, in the summer, it rains, so it takes forever in their summer to dry their pottery.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I've never lived in dry hot climates while I was doing pottery. So like Texas is kind of humid, but I've heard a lot in Texas, it's like an immediate dry. And then in Colorado, obviously it's going to be an immediate dry because that's going to be dry, high heat, high elevation, and all that stuff. So they're closer to the sun anyway. So there's that. But yeah, it definitely depends. It's per where you are. And what I would recommend to anybody is just to make, so like at work, we have damp boxes, but we have like large damp boxes. So we make shelves, and then we hang shower curtains that have glass beads in the bottom, and those shower curtains lean up against the shelves, and so there's no airflow that comes into the shelf. So like, it, and like my boss even has like humidity, like readers in the shelf just to make sure that they're kind of all consistent. And so that's a way to like make sure that everything's consistent wherever you are, wherever you travel, So yeah.
It's a good idea.
How has it been like transitioning, at least from what I understand, Becca, the job that you have right now is you've only had it for a few months, right? Yeah,
since January 12th.
How has that been like? Do you still find that you're able to make your own like personal work the way that you want to? Because I know you would also, you're kind of like transitioning your style a little bit more at the same time. So how has that been like balancing this new job? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I produced beforehand too. Like, it's funny because my whole journey has been like high production, mid production, and now we're back to high production. So, when I owned the studio, I was doing probably like in the summers, probably like 50 to 100 pieces a week, and then maybe more, and then like doing shows every weekend, and then kind of going through that, and then. But before that, I was doing high production, and then now I'm doing 100 pieces, 150 pieces a day, and so, but I don't have to touch it after that. So
right,
like,
you just throw it and go.
Right. So, well, except for on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays I trim. That's why I'm tired today. But on Tuesdays I trim. So, but yeah, it's been fine because I work for one of my best friends. Rebecca is one of my best friends, so. It's been, when you're like after college and you're like, I'm never having a roommate that's a friend ever again. And, and I've always been like, yeah, right. And I've always been like, I don't want to work for a friend, but we, we're both adults and we have good boundaries and yeah, it's been good. I am exhausted pretty much all the time, but that's also got a lot to do with like, some different health stuff that's going on, but yeah, I completely burned out from regular pottery, 100%. So and normally I would it was not a healthy lifestyle that I was leading in 2020 and before. So when I came here, I do have my own studio with a friend. And I have that set up, and I'm doing some tests, but I'm not rushing it. And I think that that's because I'm like a classic atypical workaholic. So, my gut and my bones is like, get into the studio, like, you lazy piece of shit, and like, that's me. So now, yeah, that's Ryan to a T. And so now I've kind of like given myself some time and like given myself space to like be present and be okay with my surroundings and where I'm at right now. And I feel like I'm finally getting back to that. And I also don't have a kiln, which has really made this a lot easier. Because
kind of decides for you.
Kiln, I'd probably be working, but my kiln is on back order and it'll be here at the end of April. So
that's still you have it on order, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm getting a cone.
What are you going for?
Cone art, cone 10, cone art, 23, 27, I believe. Not as big as I would prefer, but the
that's still big. 23, 27.
Yeah, so it's 21-inch shelves and 27 high or something like that. It's a 7 cubic foot. And I'd prefer a 10 just because I already had the shelves for a 10 and I had advancers for a 10. So that's why I'd prefer a 10. But it just didn't work out electrical wise. So yeah, so that's been easy. And I feel like it's been really good that I haven't gotten the kiln because now I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like I'm ready to like get going and to like kind of get back to this. So
it was, if I'm understanding you correctly, it was kind of like the burnt out was coming from you focusing on making a bunch of your own work, selling a bunch of your own work, and is the relief that you're feeling now kind of more from the fact that you are not having, like, you're working for Rebecca and that you're not having to make as much of your own work? Is that, if I'm understanding you correctly, or?
Not necessarily. The burnout was actually from a money-driven outlook as opposed to a like creativity-driven outlook, or not even creativity, but like what I actually like to do. So when I was at my studio, it was all about how do we make rent, how do we pay the bills, how much money can I get into the door because I don't want to be in debt, how can I pay off this debt, so I'm running classes, I'm running members, I'm running paint your own pottery, and I'm also running my own production, and that's 3 too many things. Okay, so that is
respect.
So that's like, it was so much, like, I shouldn't have been doing that. And I did that for 3 years straight, you know, so that is something that I should have never even considered. But it just kind of like evolved, you know, and I think that that's why we always talk about make sure you have a plan for when you start. Make sure you stick to that plan, and make sure you not even stick to it, but make sure you have a goal for what makes you happy and what makes you satisfied with life. Because if you move away from that, and if you start thinking about money more than you start thinking about how your mental health is and how you are, then that's going to affect what you're doing. And yeah, and so So, like, in the long run, like, I love to throw pots. Like, I like to sit down, listen to, like, music or listen to, like, 15 podcasts and throw 150 pots a day. Like, I hate trimming. I hate glazing. I hate marketing. I hate all of that stuff. So, like, if I would have just kind of gone that direction in the first place, I think I would have been better off in the long run. And, I mean, and it's
But you kind of started working in a production studio with
right.
Bruning, right? So you kind of started there, and then you went off and made your own stuff after you got a big order.
Yeah, so I got an order with Starbucks, and then I kind of like went off on my own because the guy that I was taking classes from was like, "I think you're making too much stuff," and I was like, "Bye."
Oh yeah, that's how it starts. Every teacher I've ever been with was like, "I'm not a production studio," and I'm like, "Well, I am." So goodbye.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they are a production studio, so, and it was funny is that he told me that, and his wife was like, no. his wife came up to me, and she's like, you can stay however long you want. But, yeah, so I just kind of, like, it escalated so quickly, and we say yes to things that we don't think through, and sometimes it turns out great, and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it wasn't super great. It was, but it wasn't. Like, I wouldn't trade it, but I don't think I'd do it again.
It wasn't ideal, rather. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I made so many great connections and so many good, like, people connections that I will cherish forever. And I loved every moment of that, but it was just really tough on me mentally, so.
Because the main need you had from moving out of the home studio to that was space. So if you found a space that was kind of in between there that you could have kept up and kind of did your own thing without needing to do classes and paint your own pot, for instance, then you would have been a lot happier from what I gathered from just our discussions.
Yeah. You did have triple the workload, it seems, and it was like you were burning, but after a while you incinerate yourself. You just got to be careful to tread that line. So I get how that could toll on you.
And honestly, I would have been still doing it if COVID hadn't come along. So the only reason that I stopped, like, I would have been going. I would have been fine. Well, not really, but I would have been going.
But just,
yeah, but COVID stopped, and I remember sitting in my car. I was bawling, and I texted my best friend, and I said, I hate what I'm doing right now. And he goes... And I was like, I want to leave. I want to go work for Rebecca, because I just visited Rebecca's studio maybe a month prior. And he goes, just set a date, please. He's like, I don't care what you do, just set a date and, like, stick to it. And so, I wouldn't have done anything, but I stopped working because of COVID, and I was like, oh my God, I like my life so much better. I hate working where I'm working right now, like, doing what I'm doing. And it was just like a light bulb moment. And so, yeah.
I feel like I just went through a whole anime, like, from like, beginning to end. Like, this anime is dope.
Oh my God, I know, it's true. I just, hearing you talk about it.
I just heard the origin story. That was dope. Like, the main character got out of their life they never wanted. I'm like, yeah.
I have a question for you all then, since you mentioned anime. You all mentioned the anime conventions and stuff like that you sell at. Like, what is that world? Becca and I know nothing about this world.
Oh.
You all talk about it at, like, getting tables.
I know a
and
little.
Stuff. You know a little. I know, like, Pokemon, and that's it.
Well,
I mean,
how much do they
I'm
want
an
to be
initial
freaked
D
out?
kid, so.
Oh my gosh, it's like church for nerds.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the anime conventions are like, it's really a cultural standard where it's like everyone, like, if I walk out in the middle of the street and I sing like an anime theme song, no one's gonna know what I'm talking about. But at an anime convention, they finish the rest of the song.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, like you can start the Pokemon theme song and you'll get at least 3 people standing next to you singing it with you, practically. And
No.
Yes.
So wait, what's the relation of like Comic-Con to anime conventions? Like, is that in a similar boat or are they completely separate?
It's similar in terms of its like nerdy pop culture, but anime conventions are more specific to like anime. So whether that's
and there's a lot of cosplay, right?
Yeah,
They all have cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what subdivision of cosplay. So imagine like there's a cartoon convention, right? Every cartoon's accepted. But there's another convention that's a DC like convention. Those are for DC characters only.
Yeah.
That's the difference in between like, oh, we like comics. We like a very specific subgenre of like nerdy.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how you guys met? Because we never actually talked about how you guys met.
Oh,
how
her
do y'all
boyfriend
know
tracked
each
me
other?
down.
She tracked you down.
It sounds worse. It sounds worse than it is. But yeah, Donte, you're good at telling this story. Go ahead.
Do you want me to tell?
I want you to tell this story.
I was at
and then I'll tell what little I remember because it was so long ago. But
I was at an anime convention. Evidently, Lindsey had been scoping me out online or something to that degree. Like, I think you saw my table once or something.
I think so. I think it was like at Fanime, and I was like, holy shit, it's a nerdy dude doing ceramics. But
Right.
I think I was like too nervous to go talk to you or something.
Yeah, I think
How long ago was this? How many years are we talking?
This was like 23rd. No, this would have been like 2012.
Okay.
Damn.
I
Yes.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was 2012 because I was still in college and I went to UC Santa Cruz, and I think the first time I ever went to Fanime I think was in my sophomore year, and I saw Donte just briefly, but then later at SAC Anime, which happens here in Sacramento, Cody was
Yes.
like, "Hey, Lindsey, you gotta check out
Why don't
this
they call
Donte
it
dude."
Sakame?
Sakame! That sounds so much better. I don't know why. We got to talk to their PR people.
I don't know why. Now I'm angry about it.
But yeah, I think it was after that second SAC Anime when Cody was like, "Hey, you got to check out this Donte dude." But anyway, carry on.
Well, that's in between Fanime and SAC Anime. I gathered that you had talked to each other. Mm-hmm. At least, like, one of you saw me and talked about it. And Cody, having, like, the giant balls he has, came directly up to my table and was like, "My girlfriend also likes ceramics. Her name's Lindsey. She's right over there, but she was too nervous to talk to you." And I was like, "Send her over here." And he's like, "Okay." He was super nice. He was super friendly. Like, he was like, "My girlfriend also likes anime and ceramics. Can you, like, talk to her, please?"
Okay. I don't remember this being... Like, I think the first time I actually talked to you, though, was not... Because, I may have been nervous, but I don't think I would have been so demure as to stand in the corner and be like, "Oh, boyfriend, go talk to him for me. I am too nervous." You know?
Donte senpai! Go talk to him for me!
I remember Cody coming up to me later and being like, "Hey, I finally talked to this Donte guy, and like, here's his business card. You guys should get in contact."
Yeah.
And then I think it was that next SAC Anime where we actually started talking.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then there was the urn incident.
Oh no! Did somebody make an urn?
Well, I made, it was my first time experimenting with, like, pure Japanese, like, Hagi porcelain. And so I made, like, this egg shape, but it was so round and it enclosed at the top that people mistook it for an urn.
Yeah, because what happened is, so it was one of the first few times that Donte and I had, like, actually gotten together in person to, like, hang out.
Yeah.
And we were like, "Oh, like, where should we go?" So we went to get coffee, and then we ended up going to this Irish pub called De Vere's, and, like, I'm dressed in black. Dante's dressed in black. He has this urn-looking thing, and we're at an Irish pub, and the waiter comes over, and he's like all happy at first, and then he looks at the table, and then he, like, sombers, and he goes,
sorry.
He's like, "So who are we celebrating today?" And we're like, nobody. And he's like, "Oh, but isn't that..." And we're like,
No.
There's this picture of us with Donte and I with exaggerated.
I
like,
still have it.
Yes.
I still have it. It's a picture of us like constipated, sad face.
Constipated sad face. Yeah. Oh my god.
I wish I still had that piece.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's such a good piece. But yeah, so we eventually, like, I don't know, I met up for coffee more. You invited me to do your pot smashing day.
I cherry picked the hell out of you, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I've told you this before. Like, Lindsey, so I want to say maybe like a couple months after that, there was a show at the maybe even a year, a show at the Blue Line Art Gallery. And I saw this piece that was one of her, for lack of a better term, like her creations, her like sculptures.
Because I do creature sculptures in addition to the
Right.
more like mugs, nerdy mugs that I make, so.
Yeah, and it had won an award, and I looked at it, and I was like, I like that shit. And then I saw the name on it, and I was like, yeah, I need her on my team. Yep. And that was it. And I've just, she's just allowed me to be around here from like that point on.
Man, he brings me boba. That's how our, that's the trade.
That's how I work. People are nice to me and they give me food, and then I just don't leave them.
I mean, that's how I work. Bubble tea.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We're simple people.
Yeah, I mean, fill
We
my
make art,
belly.
you feed us.
Be
You
my
stroke my
friend.
head once in a while.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll leave that to your girlfriend, wife.
Well, I meant like pet. Like I meant like I like head scratchies. I like head scratchies.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not too man to say it.
All the scritches. Dante's
tummy
basically
rubs.
a cat. Dante's basically a cat.
So, how old are you guys? Well, I'm 30.
I'm 30 as well.
I think I'm 31 or 32. 30.
You don't know how old you are?
I stopped keeping track of my birthday a very long time ago because time isn't real. That chair over there has a birthday.
I'll
Ryan's
turn 30 next.
29.
I'll turn 30 next month.
Yeah, but he's almost 30.
Oh, nice. Happy early birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, man.
Well, actually, Ryan, your birthday's 10 days before mine, so I suppose.
Yeah, mine's on 420.
Oh!
Blaze
As
it! We're from California. We have to do that every time.
I went to school at
apologize.
UC Santa Cruz. It's like, it was literally a holiday on campus.
We actually don't even smoke weed. We just
Yeah.
have to do it because we're from California.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't either. Did you know that the 420 mile marker in Colorado kept getting stolen, so they had to change it to 420.2?
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Every address in Sacramento that has 420 on it, like especially in apartments, you'll notice they're either vandalized or gone, and they just stop replacing them. Yeah. I have like 3 buddies who live in apartments, and they have like, it goes up to 400, and whenever there's a 420, it's just missing. Every time.
Understandable.
Oh my
I can
God,
see that.
that's so funny.
Which I get, because if it was still there, I'd be like, I want that.
So
Yeah.
for I had a follow up to the anime thing. How much is like
sorry.
a table there that you're paying for, and like what is like a good sales day look like? Because that's the majority of the sales that you all have talked about on the podcast before. Are those the main venues that you go through in person for sales?
Well, Lindsey, like, what's the most you have ever made at Phantom in a day? I have a very definitive, like, I have a very clear memory of that.
Yeah, so the table fees range between, like, I think the lowest that I paid was $150 for the weekend,
Yeah.
which is really not bad.
Not at all.
And then I think it's between like $150 and like $200.
And those are 3 days typically, like
3
a Friday,
days.
Saturday,
Yeah.
Sunday.
Friday,
if you,
Saturday, Sunday.
You can pay for, like, the whole weekend, like, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as a bulk, which is what you really want to do. But they make it incentivized. So one day is like $100 or $150. But all 3 days, they're like, we'll give it to you for $200. That's your incentive.
I think
Yeah.
some conventions will do that, but I think Phantom you have to be there all weekend.
Yeah, that was in the contract, I believe.
Yeah,
If
I
you left
think-
early, they wouldn't invite you back, they said.
Yeah, unless that's a
Unless it's
depends
changed.
unless you like sell out. But I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
so the fee is between $150 and $200, and over the weekend, I think the most I pulled in over a weekend was $3,500, and then I think Saturday was my busiest day, and I want to say I made like $1,500
Nice.
that day.
Yeah.
But the issue
You're
that
kind of
I
working
had-
off volume
What's that?
because there's so many thousands of people that go to that. I'm guessing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Well, it's just maximum exposure. It's just, you're in an aisle with constant people.
and it's nice because like you're in an environment where like people have already paid to get in.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily just browsing. And also, there's not very many nerdy ceramic artists who are at these anime conventions.
Yeah.
And then, like, I know from being a con goer that it's like you go in there ready to just empty your wallet, you know? So it's like
You go look for, like, a specific thing most of the time.
Yeah.
And if you have an artist you like and you go back to that convention, you're like, I'm looking for Lindsey. I have $50. I paid to be here. I'm looking for Lindsey. I followed her social media. I know she's here.
What kind of peers do you have there with tables? Is it a lot of other artists, like making printmaking stuff and
It's
like
mostly print.
graphic artists and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been, over the last couple years, I feel like there's been more people doing more 3D art. You know, sometimes you'll have folks making, like, soap sometimes. You'll have folks making, like, bags. You'll have clothes.
Candles.
Yeah, things like that. But most of the art, I would say, is probably print. But what's nice is that they have like a they have like the artist alley, and then they have the vendor hall.
Yes.
And
nice.
The vendor hall. The bright side of that is that if you can pay, like, you get a bigger space. You can pay ahead of time because the artist alley is kind of like on a lottery system. So it's like you may get in or you may not, depending if it's like lotteried or if it's like a juried thing.
Yeah.
But like artist alley is generally for like smaller artists, like, you know, like us who make, you know, who aren't like big
like craft
manufacturers.
work and whatnot.
Yeah. So they really highlight handmade artwork or like smaller artists in this artist alley in the conventions, which is really nice.
Yeah, agreed. And it's also awesome because you don't have to really compete with like the action, not production work in the sense that we have production work, but I mean production work as in like
mass produced like
hoodies, like Pikachu mugs that have been made by an actual machine that are made from like low fire, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to compete with that.
You'd be surprised how many things are actually made by a machine in China. There's not in the ceramics world. It's actually no. It's actually not as many. Like they use jiggers, but mostly I know this because my brother, not my brother, my best friend is a he imports and exports. He imports from China, and he does ceramics, and he imports ceramics, which is hilarious. But I was the one that helped him get cone 10 instead of cone 04, and
nice.
But yeah, like they all use like jiggers and stuff. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I never really knew that about the China sector of ceramics. Anyway, Donte, what was your most highest day?
I think I made 2 G's and it was on my last day. What usually happens is like Friday you start off and the real con goers, like the people who are looking for you specifically, are coming for you. It's Friday. Yeah. I know you're at this convention. I'm looking for you. I found you. I know where you are. I followed your social media, all that. I came for the product that I want before everybody else gets it.
Yeah.
Right? Saturday is kind of the in-between stage where the latecomers who follow your stuff come, or people who just go buy your stuff and don't know about you will often be attracted to it. Sunday is when all those people who have seen you are like, this is the last day. Mm-hmm. I need to get it before he goes. The timeline is 4 o'clock on a Sunday, and it's 2 o'clock. Either we're buying or we're out. Like, it's make or break decision time. And so usually, I remember my very first table at Fanime, I sold all my cups for like $10, $15.
Oh my god. I remember you telling me about that.
And I still made like $1,500 in a weekend.
I did that at a garage sale.
Yeah, because when you first start out, you're like, I just want this out so I can make more stuff. I want more money to make more stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as I kept going, I kept raising the prices. And now I think it's like $25, $28 a mug if I'm in person, if it's not sold on my website. But yeah, at the time it was like $25 a mug, and at the very last moment people were just buying anything that was blue because people be like that. And yeah, like it was like 2 G's on a Sunday, and yeah, that's about it, I think. But we haven't gone to family for a long time.
Are those tables normally like a 6-foot table, or is it like a 10x10 booth, or what?
They're usually, what is this?
It's like 6 foot.
It's like 6 by like 5 or 6 by 4. Like it's like 4 and then like 6.
Okay. Yeah.
The biggest table I've ever had is like 6 by 6. But usually I have a cart or whatever I tote underneath the table. Whenever somebody buys something, I put more up there. So I'm just constantly revolving work.
Yeah. It also depends on the space that you get, because regular artist alley spaces are like the size that Dante was talking about,
Yeah.
but sometimes they'll have a specific section within artist alley called indie zone, which I go to sometimes, which is like if you excuse me, drink.
Oh yeah, we both yawned at the same time.
Yep. Shoot, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, but so within artist alley there will be like indie zone, which is if you are making original designs, not just like fan art, and those will be like more like a 10 by 10. So those can be a little bit bigger, but for the most part that's the size.
The magical thing is when they don't give you a table size and they say you have to provide your own table. That to me is like, oh, you're new at this. I'm bringing the biggest table because it wasn't in the contract, and that's your fault.
Yeah, bring an 8-foot table or something like that.
Why is your table 10 by 10? Why didn't you specify a table? If you provided me with a table and a chair, this wouldn't happen.
What events do you guys find the most like success at? Because I kind of got the sense that you guys were you do like more like events like more frequently. Because I mean, I only, back when we could go to conventions, I only went to like maybe 3 conventions a year or something like that. But what do you guys find like a good market for y'all's work?
So for me, I enjoy selling in person the most, which is a lot of like monthly markets, a lot of like arts and craft kind of shows. So it's a lot of there could be like macrame artists or painting or photography or something like that. Or like kind of indie sort of markets where there might be soaps or like honey, things like that are local. And then, those are typically like not juried. They're more like, give us your website and your social media, and you're paying maybe $80 for the booth, maybe $90. So it's usually less than $100, and it's typically one day. They have it the first weekend every month or the third weekend every month, and then I kind of like sign up for 3 of those throughout the season, or the other show that's the third weekend, I might do like 2 of those throughout the season if I'm not selling another one. And then I'll usually sign up for like juried shows like the Berea Craft Festival, which is in Kentucky, which I'll be doing this year hopefully, and those are like 2 or 3 day shows that are art shows. They're juried. You probably go into like Zapplication and fill out an application for it and sign up, and the booth is probably $200 plus the $25 to $40 application fee. But I've been doing a lot of like one day shows because I like to just get there in the morning, set up, do it all, sell, and then tear down at the end and go home. Yeah. But I'll be doing a few more like 2-day ones. But I did a lot of farmers markets last year because of COVID, so I was still able to sell at 24 shows, but half of those were farmers markets.
Farmers markets are underestimated, I think.
You pay $25 for the booth, and I was selling $500 or $600 for a $25 booth. Like that was worth it for me for 4 hours.
If you did a Davis farmers market, you'd fucking kill it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. Because Davis is like a small community, and Sacramento's a little bit bigger. But, you could get into like the middle of Sacramento,
Yeah.
They do have booths in the middle of Sacramento, but now that you say Davis, it's weird because I'm from California and other states consider us hippies, but when you say Davis, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
They would love it. Yeah, that makes
I mean,
a lot
like
of
the
sense.
only thing that you'd be competing with is the other potters, so you'd have to kind of like figure that out. But
new friends.
Yeah, the advantage to farmers markets, I feel like, are that they're like the small community, but the disadvantage is that farmers markets are usually traveled by the same occupancy every week. So like, especially if you're in a small community. If you're in a larger community, it may be different, but definitely, when you are in like small town, Snohomish, Washington, everybody that goes to that farmer's market is going to be the same person that went to it last week. So like, I would always go pretty random to farmer's markets. The market that I do is it's not a farmer's market. It is an art show, which is, so it's an outside art show that Leavenworth, Washington puts on, and Leavenworth is a tourist community, and so it's basically a Bavarian-style city, so everything in the city everything in the town is Bavarian style. So,
oh my God.
So there's a lot of brats, there's a lot of beer, there's a lot of like tourists. You know, it's like Estes Park. It's like, it's kind of like Big Bear. You know, that kind of situation. So, it's you know, they've got the they have a bunch of mountains near it. They've got Stevens Pass. They have the God, what are those called? That's some hiking mountains that are super fantastic. And anyway, so I traditionally, this is the show that I've been doing, and I'm still considering whether I'll be doing it next year or not. I won't be doing it this year, but traditionally I've done Leavenworth Art in the Park, which goes from May 1st to October, the end of October, which is Oktoberfest. So, and that's every single weekend, Friday through Saturday, except for June and July, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's $25. Yeah. It's a lot. It's $25 for a booth, and then they take 20%, and it's the central checkout. So there's about 20 vendors, and everybody gets a 10 by 20 booth. So
oh, that's nice.
Damn.
It's super
That's
nice.
Like a gazebo's worth.
Yeah. It's super nice, and so that's kind of what that's what I've been doing. I started at like different smaller like shows and stuff, and eventually just ended up in Leavenworth just because I was an hour and a half away. It was easy, you know, and it's very consistent. And with that, I can make like 20 to 25,000 a summer, you know,
Nice.
like doing that. But and it's
But
just
you have
like,
to have work as well. Every week,
Yeah,
that's
right?
like
That's
what I'm
what-
so curious about, because it's like, how do you keep up with that? Because like
It's-
a couple
you
of
kill
years ago when I
yourself.
tried to
It's-
do a bunch of
yeah.
shows, like I literally was unloading kilns the night before.
Yeah.
And like if that kiln load had fucked up, I would have had no work.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
so how do you
okay.
navigate that?
So my schedule, Ryan knows this, but my schedule for summers are okay. Get home from the show Sunday night. On Sunday night, potentially if I'm awake enough, I will throw about 50 to 60 pieces, and the next day I'll throw about 50 to 60 pieces, and then I'll finish those pieces by Wednesday. I'll have them in the kiln by Wednesday night. I'll bisque them Wednesday night. I'll pull them out Thursday morning. I'll glaze them Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday midday. I will fire them Thursday. I'll pull them out Friday morning at 5 a.m. I will pack them up into my car, drive to Leavenworth, get there at 7:30, and then I do my show, and then I come back on Sunday, and then I do the same thing all over again.
Holy shit, you're a badass. Oh my god.
That's so down to the wire.
Oh my god, I'm getting anxiety just thinking about that, but holy shit.
I can't
that's
tell you how
intense.
many times, and this is like, okay, so when I had nice kilns that actually had thermocouples that
Yeah.
had digital readings, I was, actually kind of like, I
just
was
has to sit her-
I was firing in my house on my front porch, and I remember sitting on my front porch Googling, and I swear to you, I've read the same forum 50 times. How soon can you unload your kiln? Because I would be texting Mary, who is the like head, and I'd be like, I'm gonna be late, and I'm at like 450, and I'm pulling pots at like 400 degrees. They're still warm.
Mad
when
lag.
I
Oh
get to Leavenworth.
What is the answer to that? When can you unload
It's
them? without
200
it?
degrees.
No, it's
Is
not.
it?
It's
What is it?
No.
What is it? Because I've heard
You're
that
gonna
people, like,
thermo shock your glaze matrix, I say.
Nope. It's already gone through quartz and virgin. It's bullshit.
It goes through quartz and virgin in the bisque. Well, I guess it goes
No.
through it again.
Well, not quartz and virgin. Thermal shock. It's already gone through
Thermal
thermal shock. So I've unloaded a kiln at 400 degrees, no problem.
Oh my god.
No problem. The thing that you actually have to be concerned about is your kiln. It's not necessarily the pots. If you have glazes that fit your clay correctly, and after they've kind of gone through all the thermal shock situations, they're going to be fine. Now, bigger pieces, I'd be more concerned about that. But what you have to be concerned about is when you lift up your kiln lid, whether it's going to crack. And you lift it up and you hear it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Just put it
and
back down.
Put it back down. Yeah.
It's a
want-
thermal shock
no.
on the kiln itself.
Yeah. So
if I hear cracks, it goes back down.
It's more about your kilns than about your pots, because if your pots are going to be dunting in the future, they're going to be dunting regardless. So So like, you know, when you have an old shitty kiln, like, who fucking cares? Like, open up the kiln at 400, pull them out, and but yeah, I mean, it's, you know. Like,
that was a crazy timeline.
I know.
I remember talking with you while you were doing this, and it was ridiculous.
Oh my god.
I know.
Crazy.
So Ryan, is that what you have to look forward to when you eventually go to full time? What's your plan?
I'm a very big planner. Like right now, I probably have 400 pots that are finished in my studio that are just sitting on shelves.
Yes.
And I'm still worried about not having enough pots. So that's my brain. And yeah, I need to find better ways of selling it, but you know. I'm definitely a planner. I mean, if you see any of my stories or whatever in the studio, like, you can see shelves of bisqueware and shelves full of finished ware. Like, I have no shortage of pots. It's a challenge for me to continually figure out where's the demand at, what do I need to spend my time doing, as well as just, you know, like right now I'm going through fulfilling these orders to like restock some local studios for like their inventory and what they need for the spring. So like that's kind of a thing that I'm trying to figure out, as well as, you know, having stuff to restock on the Etsy shop or whatever. And, you know, balancing out, I want to like feed the online group of people to buy stuff, and like I want to feed my galleries so they don't get mad at me for taking like 4 months to deliver something, and then I got to fulfill these custom orders that I committed to, and then, you know.
Damn, that's a lot to balance. Like, how much, like right now, like what's the like rough percentage breakup between like the deliveries and to the gallery, and for the galleries, is that like wholesale or is that consignment?
Most of it's consignment. I'm not really. I have like one wholesale right now that I'm working on, but that's smaller. It's like 18 mugs or something. But
okay.
So you're like married up to a consignment. Is it one or many?
Yeah. The thing is, I got into the consignment game like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, yeah, my goal is to just reach out to a bunch of galleries that I like admire and I like locally that my stuff would fit well in, and you reach out, you make that connection.
Yeah.
You fill out the application, you go meet with them, you show them your stuff, and then you like get your foot in the door. Sales start going kind of slowly. You don't really sell that much, and then over time they grow, and now I get a check almost monthly from most of these galleries. So
nice.
You know, that's where like it's easy. As long as I deliver stuff, they can sell it, and I'm usually getting a 60% cut of that. So, but I am like having to draw the line of like what I can consign, you know, like the carved stuff. I don't consign almost any of my carved stuff because it's just not worth it financially to do that, because I can't keep up with the demand one-on-one with people, whether it's at a show or online or whatever. So like I just kind of have to draw that line and say, this is what I can commit to, this is the stuff that I can deliver. And then I'm finding this year like I'm having to raise my prices on stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm
to
kind of
deter all the people that don't
taking that to the galleries too.
Yeah, good for you on making that adjustment.
It's hard to balance.
It's hard to balance that financial picture, and especially for like the goals that you have set. Like honestly, you're talking about having that $100,000 like financial like goal set. I'm like, damn, I need to raise my expectations.
Yeah, Lindsey and I are over here like, we never put a price. We're just kind of like doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I never really set like firm financial goals for myself.
Yeah.
In like that. I mean, like I feel like every year I kind of focus on something different. But so I have like goals set, but not necessarily like specific financial goals set. I'm more so.
Why not throw a number up on the board? Throw it up there, see what happens.
You know what my favorite?
Well, after you guys talking about it, I will.
Yeah,
you know what my favorite thing about Ryan is that he's like the cheapest son of a bitch I have ever met in my life. But he has like the highest financial goals, which makes me like love you so much more, by the way. I just like he's like,
act broke to stay
I
rich.
won't spend $3 on toothpaste, but I want to be paid $100,000. Like,
I didn't hear what you first said about toothpaste, but
I said no, I'm not gonna spend $3 on toothpaste. Like, that's you.
I don't
He's
know
right,
that I've said
though.
that,
No
but-
joke though, I buy like the 99-cent dental floss, and my boyfriend's looking at me like, Lindsey, the nicer stuff is like $2, and I'm like, no, it's too expensive.
I am not paying more money to put string in between my teeth. It's not happening.
Oh my god.
Toothpaste is toothpaste.
Yeah.
That's what I love about you, Ryan.
Well, thank you. I don't mind being called a cheap ass by my mother or you on the podcast. I don't care. I hear it enough. I'm fine with it.
Hey, honestly,
it's out of
like,
love.
It's good. I think it's a good thing. Like, I feel like, because I feel like if you can be a cheap ass in some areas, you get to splurge in the areas that you actually care about. And if you don't care about buying nice toothpaste, who gives a shit?
My car look nice.
Yeah.
You know my car look nice? Because I don't be spending on beer every day.
Yeah. And see me, I'd rather spend the money on the beer.
For me, if I'm not wearing it or eating it, I don't pay for it. Or
That's
it's not
beer.
like rent. Beer? No, I don't beer, but like, she has a kitty problem.
So cute. I just want to
It's
pet all the
Marvel.
cats.
That's Marvel.
Marks.
Well, you got to go pretty soon. Do we have any last questions or things that we want to talk about?
Oh my gosh.
I had a quick one that you could answer probably. Who is a dream person that you'd want to interview on Mud Peddlers?
Does it have to be is it just a ceramics person or like any
No,
any
it could be
person?
anybody.
I want to
anybody.
interview Guillermo del Toro because he's one of my patron saints. Guillermo del Toro, the film director.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he did Pan's Labyrinth and The Orphanage and Hellboy, and
Yeah.
I would want to interview him because he's like his artistic style and the way that he brings like dark fantasy to life in these really rich, complex ways that like source from modern visual culture of creatures, but also like delves into this rich like history of like traditional art, and that combination just like does things for my brain.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. That's who I'd interview.
That's a difficult question for me because personally, it's weird because I'm like a bit antisocial, but at the same time, I really want to make like YouTube friends and whatnot. You know, like with you guys, I was excited to be here because I'm like more Potters to get along with, right? Because there's a subset that goes like they're already part of the culture that I'm already indoctrinated into, which is pottery, of course, or clay culture. Mm-hmm. But the newest person in my sight has been Seth Rogen. He's not recently become a potter, but he's become larger in the stratosphere of potter and ceramic culture. And it just, I really want to sit down and be like, how? How did you become a pothead figuratively and literally? Tell me this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I follow him, I watch his stories every day, and I think I'm more interested than I am awestruck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be more interested to like actually hang out with him and talk to him as one-on-one than I would be to like want to actually do it for Mud Peddlers. Yeah, I'm massively curious about him. Yeah. Other than that,
what about you guys?
Ugh.
Like if you could have a dream guest on
Flipping the
on Real
script.
Talk. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll
Becca,
go because I
you-
know he's gonna have time to think about this. I feel like my dream guest is also gonna become a reality pretty soon. But I think
you're gonna say the same thing that I'm gonna say.
Leanne from Elon Pottery is mine because she's like,
Yeah.
is that yours too?
That was mine. As soon as
Yeah.
you started saying that, I was like, damn it.
she took
No.
my answer, teacher.
We have different
Unfair.
reasons. We have different reasons. My reason is because she's the one potter that's really like spread her wings to not only importing from other people within the United States and selling that product, but also importing from China with her coffee pour overs. And I really am so interested in how she's like built her thing. And I also want to know like if she hates her life or if she loves her life. Like, you know, like I also want to know if she's like, you know, like maxed out, you know?
Yeah.
And because I'm really curious about people and how they, I like cynically like think that people actually secretly all hate their lives, and and like, you know, and I want to know why. Like, I just, she seems so interesting to talk to.
Yeah.
And she's done so much in the ceramics community, and I feel like that's really cool. Right.
I get it.
Yeah, mine was similar. I want to see how she balances all of her duties, and like, how does she get a team around her that can keep the train on the tracks?
Yeah.
And still share stuff about like being excited about getting her greenhouse that's like down the hill and doing projects for that's on her property, and like, you know, the new place she's got at the beach now, which I got a feeling that was related to like getting away from the studio during the weekends, and
so proud of her,
and also
for
being
that.
a mother, and like balancing the different businesses of the pins and the transfers and the pottery, and how she can keep up with all the restocks, and it's just nuts. Like, that's where I would want to see how she can balance it all.
Just to see how these monsters like hunt
Do
in the middle.
everything.
Yeah, like, how does the wolf hunt is my question. Because the dogs are very impressed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's do one last question, and let's say who you're like.
Did they have a last question,
ceramic-
though? I asked them a question. Did they have one that they wanted to ask?
Oh, I asked
steal.
my main question already.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think most of the stuff I was curious about we've addressed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at the list as well, and I'm like, this kind of came up during conversation.
yeah. So Becca, if you got a question, you wanna
Okay.
ask, I'm game. We're gonna flip it on you though.
So
probably.
not specific to like the podcast, but who is like a ceramic artist that you, or a potter that you idolize and that you is like one of your faves?
Mine is just my teacher that is now retired, but he taught me everything
who's
I
that?
knew. Yoshio Taylor. He's just, I went to college and he like taught me everything I know. Like, he's the only teacher I've ever had. Everything else is just development from what I see online or my own like experimentation. Just, I think my dream one day is to like make it to a stratosphere of pottery or a hierarchy of pottery on the list and be like, look what you have done, and for him to be proud of me to a certain degree, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's one of my main goals.
Yeah. I think I would probably, like, I don't know, this feels like an almost obvious answer, but like, I think Mike Sinelli is an artist who really stands out for me because I always really struggled with surface decoration with my functional work because I came from a sculptural background. So I didn't know how to make my work interesting, and I feel like he was one of the artists that I first saw his work and was like, holy shit, like this is what I want to, like, that level, that layering, it just, I don't know, yeah, I think his work really made an impact on like my conception of like all that you could do with a very functional piece. He was also the first like art mug that I ever bought, like my first like $70 mug, you know?
$100
Never
mug
forget your
club.
first mug.
You never forget my first mug. I still have to repair it though because I dropped it.
Don't tell him that part. He's
I
gonna
know,
hear it.
I know, I'm sorry. But
He's
I
gonna
did.
give you another one.
Oh my god, I would die. And I would have to make him a special mug and then send him one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
We have to have a go around of like all the potters we know and be like, mug trade.
Yeah.
Everybody mug trade.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you guys kind of do that, right? Don't you do a like a mug swap, pot swap?
Pot swap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pot swap.
Yeah.
Let us know. We'd love to be part of the next one if you do it.
That would be really
Yeah.
fun.
For
Sign
sure.
up
Ryan,
quickly. It'll
Ryan,
be this
who's-
October.
Who's your artist person? Yours.
Yeah, yeah. I wanna
I hate it when you do this, Becca.
I know. I'm sorry.
I don't want to be repetitive of what I always say on this podcast.
Just
but
say it. It's fine.
Speak your truth.
Yeah, because the Mud Peddlers people may not have heard it.
All right, my go-to is always Kurt Hammerly because I like his process and I like his
Preach.
ability to do the glazes and the way he's like scaled his business in a safe manner and like, yeah, that, you know, finding the demand, doing that kind of the trajectory he's had with the quitting the day job, like it, and that's kind of like the picture that I see, and it's like what's possible and what you could do, like completely debt free. I really love that part of it, that he's not taking super risky chances with the business part. He's taking it steady, but also like cautiously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he's
I'll
also
tell you, we're
finding time to
actually
like
open.
experiment and do fun projects and see what happens. So that's always my go-to.
I hear that. Donte and I were literally just talking about him like before
Yeah.
we hopped on with you guys, because I was again just like watching his growth over the last even just couple of years is just like holy shit. But knowing that he's doing all of that like debt free and everything is just that's amazing.
Oh yeah.
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 So Becca, what about you?
Mine is somebody probably no one's ever heard of, is Anne Van Hooey. Hooey.
Oh, I just heard you talking about her on the last podcast that you guys did. Yes.
Yeah, she's a potter in, I want to say she's in Amsterdam or it's either Amsterdam, Germany, or Sweden, and I'm not sure, but she takes colored clay and then puts them in a plaster form and like throws them in that form, and then she cuts them with scissors, and then she folds them over, and they are fucking phenomenal. And I remember seeing her pieces like in 2014 and like Googling how she did her process and all these things, and it's so simplistic and it's so like,
Yeah.
but it's so elegant all at the same time. And that's
There's always these tricks in the like upper ranges of pottery that you're like, whoa, how was that done? And then you research it and you're like, oh, that's actually really simplistic. I don't know, like bubble glaze. People are like, put soap in your glaze and blow bubbles. That's right. And how do you make colored clay? You just mix mason stains with like really white pure slip, and it turns into clay over time. I knew that.
But it's like the skill to take that basic instruction and then execute it
Yes.
well is a whole other thing.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Definitely.
It has been so much fun chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Have us on anytime. We like this. This is cool.
yeah.
It's my
Yeah.
excuse to overeat. I don't need an excuse, actually.
This is true. This is true.
Cool.
Yeah, we really appreciate you all spending time with us.
For sure.
I know the listeners will definitely appreciate it, and yeah, we always appreciate it. So
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. We do gotta get going, but we like I do gotta get going, but I really
Yeah, you
do.
gotta go raid with your Destiny group.
They're blowing me up.
So
Gotta
They're
go,
like,
Gabe.
Devil, you said 30 minutes, 40 minutes ago.
All right. We'll get you going, Donte.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks for
All right.
chatting.
All right.
Really great chatting with you
Thanks.
guys. Oh, we'll
Bye.
communicate afterwards about sharing the
Yeah.
the
Right.
link for.
We'll get a drive and we'll share the stuff so that way we can, figure out who's gonna edit what and figure out what we got.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
Later, guys.
Bye. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're having so much fun. If you want to follow us individually on Instagram, you totally can. Ryan's Instagram handle is @RDCeramics, and mine is 5 Lines Pottery. That's the number 5. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to write us a review on our podcast. We read every single one of them, and we totally appreciate them. They help us out an awful lot, and they also put smiles on our faces. I hope you guys continue to listen, and we love you. Thanks. Bye.